So you guys know I'm fairly new to this whole minimalism thing, and so far I'd say the journey has been a really positive experience, but I've definitely fallen flat on my face a few times along the way. So today I wanted to talk about some mistakes I made as a beginner minimalist. And if you're new here, my name's Christina. I talk all about simple living, minimalism, and how to get out of debt. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and why not hit subscribe? Join the fam. It's pretty good here. So the first mistake I made as a new minimalist was that I over decluttered. But mind you, I don't regret anything I did declutter, but I didn't really put a lot of thought into the process. Kind of the key word when it comes to what minimalism means to me is intentionality. So that means being intentional with what you bring into your space, and I would say being equally as intentional with what you decide to remove. When I decided I wanted to pursue minimalism, and that minimalism was kind of the missing piece that tied this whole journey that I'm on together, I dove in head first. And I started getting rid of things left, right, and center. I would do power marathon declutter sessions. I'd go through every single closet and drawer and nook and cranny and just get rid of everything. I was ruthless. And I think maybe I needed that at the time. I will say that going deep into decluttering is probably not for everyone. What I learned is that decluttering is a process, and I think a slow and steady and intentional process of getting rid of your things is really valuable. It just makes it a more mindful experience. So I think I would have had maybe a bit of a better experience kind of just decluttering slowly but surely along the way. And that's kind of how I do things now. So instead of going in deep and doing a full unpacking party, then maybe for 10 minutes every day as you're cleaning up a space or putting away laundry, that could be an opportunity to declutter, which gives you the space and the energy and the time to give to the thing that you're decluttering and decide if you want to keep it or not, decide if you actually use it, and decide if it actually brings you value. So I think in the future, I don't really see myself doing one mass declutter where I tear the whole place apart and then put it back together at the end of the day and I'm hungry with low blood sugar and cranky. I think slow and steady progressive declutters that are continuous and almost like a habit, I think is a lot more helpful way to declutter and to also prevent things from building back up again. So that's definitely one mistake that I made. The second mistake I made as a beginner minimalist was that I kind of missed the point. So I kind of got too hung up on the stuff and didn't really focus on what minimalism is really all about, which really is about less stuff, less clutter, less stress, more time, more freedom, and more energy to focus on what's important to you. But I find a common thing with beginner minimalists is that we often get too hung up on the stuff, too hung up on the clutter, on the decluttering process, on organizing, reorganizing, on maintaining a certain aesthetic, trying to achieve a look on what we assume minimalism to be. But the thing is that minimalism is whatever it's going to be for you. It's going to be different for everybody because it's all about focusing on what is truly valuable to you. So if you have a big book collection or a big record collection and it brings you value and joy, then you can still be a minimalist. If you have 3 kids and live in a huge house, you can still be minimalist too. Minimalism looks different for everybody, and it's not just about the stuff. It's what you decide to do with the stuff and how that stuff kind of fits into your life. The third mistake I made was that I got cheap. I really focused on where I could cut costs at all costs because really I discovered minimalism as a tool in order to help me get out of debt faster. But the point I missed about all of that was I was also cutting costs in areas that I still found a lot of value in. So I think minimalism, being on a budget, doesn't mean that you have to buy the cheapest thing and cut costs everywhere and not have anything at all. It's about allocating your money to the places where you want to spend it, where you see value, and putting that money in a place that is going to serve you. So I think being frugal and being a minimalist are quite closely tied together, but I think that's a little bit of an assumption. Just like it's an assumption that if you're frugal, that you're cheap. I think being on a budget and being a minimalist might look like you're making sacrifices, but really you're just putting your money and your time where you see the most value and removing it from the areas that you don't. Mistake number 4 was that I didn't give myself time. Minimalism is a bit of a lifestyle shift. It takes time and energy and intention to build those habits and make it a part of your life. And I thought that just because I did a huge giant declutter and kicked almost everything to the curb that I was now suddenly a minimalist. Turns out that's not really how it works. Because sometimes letting go of things on some days is really, really difficult, and on other days it's really easy. And it takes time to develop these new thought processes, these habits, and these mindsets. The more you dive into something and the more you allow yourself to explore it, that's when you really sort of give yourself the time to learn and expose yourself to new mindsets, new ideas, and to build a new set of values overall, which minimalism really is. Another mistake I made when I decided to embrace minimalism was that I felt like I had to justify every single purchase to myself and to others. So really my ism about worrying about what other people think really didn't go away when I decided to be a minimalist, and really I felt like I was under more of a microscope than ever before because I announced that. Because I think a lot of people assume that minimalism looks like a Matt D'Avella video where you use a bowl as a coffee cup and your finger as a toothbrush. If that's what minimalism looks like to you, then do you, but that's not really what it is. And no one deserves to have that kind of pressure put on them. So don't put that pressure on yourself too. I really had to learn that anything I decided to bring in was something that I brought in for myself and that I knew I put the intentional thought process on. So if you decide to embrace minimalism and all of a sudden need to buy a new t-shirt, don't let anyone give you for that. It's the intentionality and thought process that you implement in your own life on the things that you decide to bring in or not bring in. It's not for anybody else to decide. And the final mistake I made was that I got a little too hung up on what everyone else was doing. I started to get really focused on achieving a certain aesthetic and thinking like I was doing it wrong. I got really focused on decluttering down to a certain amount of clothing. For example, if you have more than 36 pieces of clothing, then you're not a minimalist. I got really hung up on these if this then that sort of statements when it came to minimalism, and got hung up on the assumptions of what minimalism looks like. And no one's really doing it right. Everyone's just sort of figuring it out for themselves. What I'm saying here is don't focus on the aesthetic, don't focus on what it's supposed to look like, focus on the journey itself and figuring out what you see value in, because that's what this is all about. So becoming a minimalist isn't about a race to declutter the most. It's not about wearing the same black t-shirt every day, and it's not about stuffing your whole life into just a backpack. Minimalism looks different for everyone, and I think if you keep that at the front of your mind as you go through the process of becoming a minimalist and embracing minimalism into your life, then I think it'll make it a much more positive experience and one that stays true to what you hope to gain from it. But before we finish, a quick word from today's sponsor, Skillshare. Girl still in debt, gotta pay those bills. Oh, hi there. I was just editing this Instagram reel that I'm gonna go cross-promote on TikTok, and then I need to go edit my YouTube video, and then I've gotta go answer some emails, and then I have that presentation to do, and do you ever feel like you're being pulled in all kinds of different directions and that your decisions are never really your own? Yeah. Me too. I recently took Greg McEwen's course on Essentialism over on Skillshare, and he breaks down exactly what Essentialism is all about. And it's about separating the important few from the trivial many. So your decisions become your own, and you only focus on what's truly important to you. I got a lot of value out of reading Greg's book, and I got to double down on that value through his course on Skillshare. For less than $10 a month, you have access to thousands of classes that are updated all the time, so you can always stay inspired and stay focused on what's important to you. So if you're interested in trying out any of these courses yourself, the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free premium membership trial. All right, now let's get this video wrapped up. I mean, if it's essential. So if you're new to this whole minimalism thing, or if you're a veteran, leave me a comment down below and let me know some of the mistakes that you've learned along the way. If you like this video, then please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more videos like this, then hit subscribe. Come on back. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you later.